NBA players get those dream checks, don't they? They're always showing off their glamorous lives filled with cash, fame, and all that flashy stuff on social media. But the thing is, they never show us the darker part of their lives. Believe it or not, some of these basketball stars have ended up in jail. In today's video, we'll reveal some of the big names who have faced some big legal problems. Let's see who they are and what went down. Number 15. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman is a legendary NBA figure, both on and off the court. Nicknamed the Worm, Rodman is infamous for his vibrant lifestyle, which often landed him in hot water with the law. The thing is, Rodman owned a massive, opulent mansion in California. For Rodman, it was the perfect party pad. This place was party central, rocking non-stop. He was partying there every day of the week. The neighbors were so fed up that they called the police at his home over 70 times. Despite numerous complaints and visits from law enforcement, the parties didn't stop, which is why he went to jail for it many times. In fact, did you know he's been to jail 60 times? Yeah, 60. But it wasn't just due to partying hard. Throughout his career, Rodman embraced the bad boy persona. He's famously associated with his time at the Detroit Pistons and later a notorious incident in 1997 where he kicked a cameraman while playing for the Chicago Bulls. He was arrested over the years due to various reasons. For example, multiple DUIs recorded in 1999, 2004, and 2018, alongside arrest for public drunkenness and misdemeanor battery in 1999. He also faced charges for a hit and run, lying to police, driving without a license in 2016, and another case of misdemeanor battery in 2019. Despite these numerous encounters with the law, Rodman only spent a total of 2 days in jail. You must be wondering how, right? Well, in most cases, he managed to avoid longer jail times by going for alternatives, like paying fines, doing community service, or attending counseling programs. These options kept him out of prolonged incarceration and also allowed him to make some amends for his actions. Like Rodman, this next NBA star spent far less time in jail than he should have, considering his number of illegal doings. Number 14. Charles Barkley. We all know Charles Barkley for his sharp wit and infectious humor. Before he became the charismatic figure on TV, Barkley was often in the news for his wild behavior off the court, just as much as his impressive skills on it. Barkley's history with the law includes a few memorable incidents. Back in 1991, he started a bar fight in Milwaukee, leading to arrest for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. However, he was acquitted on the grounds of self-defense. The following year, 1992, trouble followed him to a Chicago bar. Here, he was confronted by a man with a knife and they had a fight. Fortunately, fellow NBA player Jason Williams was there to help, and charges against Barkley were eventually dropped. In 1997, Barkley was involved in another bar incident where he famously threw a man through a window after the man threw ice at him. For this, he faced charges of aggravated battery and resisting arrest, but was released on a $6,000 bond after spending 5 hours in jail. The biggest legal trouble came in 2008 when Barkley was arrested for DUI in Scottsdale, Arizona, for running a stop sign. He pleaded guilty and was initially sentenced to 10 days in jail, but this was reduced to 3 days after he agreed to enter an alcohol treatment program. Since then, Barkley's managed to keep a clean slate with the law. Now he focuses on his career as a sports analyst and entertaining viewers without causing any drama. Number 13. Corey Blount. Corey Blount is a name that might not ring a bell for many NBA fans. Blount started his career with the Chicago Bulls. He played at a time when Michael Jordan was either retired or not fully active, meaning Blount missed the chance to win a championship. Years after his basketball career in 2008, Blount faced serious legal issues. He was arrested after the police found 29 pounds of marijuana at his home. This led to charges against him for possessing marijuana with the intent to distribute. In 2009, Blount made a plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of simple marijuana possession, which allowed him to avoid the more severe charges of drug possession and trafficking. His punishment was tough, though. He had to spend 1 year in jail, completion of a drug treatment program, a $10,000 fine, and he had to give up $34 grand in cash and 2 vehicles. He was also required to do 250 hours of community service. Since that incident, there haven't been any more reports of legal troubles involving Blunt, which is a good thing. As compared to Blunt, this next NBA star went to jail for something far more serious. Number 12, J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith jumped straight from high school to the NBA. He was picked in the first round of the 2004 draft. Smith made a name for himself as a valuable player who won 2 NBA championships. However, Smith's journey has not been without its bumps. Back in 2007, he was involved in a tragic car accident that resulted in the death of his friend, who was also a passenger. Smith faced serious charges and initially received a 90-day jail sentence for reckless driving, but this was later reduced to 30 days. He also completed 500 hours of community service. Smith also paid a fine and court cost for when, in May 2011, he rode a scooter without a valid driver's license. In 2018, Smith faced another issue when he broke a fan's phone. He ended up paying $600 in restitution to avoid a misdemeanor charge. More recently, in 2020, during the protest following George Floyd's death, Smith was involved in an altercation with a protester who damaged his truck. He defended his actions as self-defense and faced no charges. Let's hope Smith keeps things smooth from here on out. Number 11, Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson needs no introduction, but his skills on the court did not save him from legal problems. Back in 1993, Iverson was hit with 3 felony counts and a misdemeanor after having a fight in Virginia. He was given a 15-year sentence, with 10 years suspended. Ultimately, he only served 4 months in jail before his sentence was fully suspended. Then, in 1997, when Iverson was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon and possessing marijuana during a traffic stop in Virginia, he entered a no-contest plea and received 3 years of probation and was required to complete 100 hours of community service. In 2002, Iverson was arrested again for assaulting and carrying an unlicensed gun after he allegedly barged into his cousin's apartment. These charges were eventually dropped. But wait for it, there's more. In 2013, Iverson was accused by his ex-wife of abducting their 5 children and keeping them in a Georgia hotel. Although police got involved, no charges were pressed. Overall, Iverson's actual time behind bars was limited to just 4 days. It's surprising, just like this next star who spent just 20 days in jail on charges of domestic violence. Number 10, Meta Sandiford Artest. Meta Sandiford Artest is infamously known for starting the worst brawl in NBA history, which erupted between players and fans during a game. He has to face a year of probation and do community service. He went to jail, yes, but for a whole different reason. In 2007, he faced domestic violence charges after he allegedly assaulted his wife. He entered a no-contest plea to the charges and was initially sentenced to 20 days in jail. This sentence was eventually reduced, and he served 10 days in a work release program. Other than his jail time, Artest was also ordered to complete 100 hours of community service. Like Artest, this next star spent quite a time in jail due to his short temper. Number 9, Oliver Miller. Oliver Miller, who played in the NBA for 9 years and made it to the 1993 finals with the Phoenix Suns, ended up making more headlines for his actions off the court. In 2011, Miller was arrested on several serious charges. These included assault, reckless endangerment, and several charges related to carrying and using a handgun. He was slapped with these charges when he pistol-whipped his girlfriend's brother during a backyard barbecue. Miller was initially handed a 5-year sentence, but 4 of those years were suspended, meaning he only spent 1 year behind bars. After that, he was on probation for 5 years. This horrific episode overshadowed the quieter years he had on the basketball court. Number 8, Ruben Patterson. Ruben Patterson was once called Kobe's stopper for his tough defense against the NBA legend, but he's had his fair share of legal problems. In 2001, Patterson was involved in a nightclub altercation and was arrested for misdemeanor assault. He pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct, receiving a sentence of 1 day in jail and a $500 fine. His troubles continued into 2002 when he faced felony domestic abuse charges against his wife. Patterson was bailed out by teammate Derek Anderson for $1,000, but the charges were dropped after his wife decided not to proceed. In 2010, Patterson faced a DUI charge. His sentence included a $500 fine and a 3-day driving program, along with an 18-month alcohol ban. Then, in 2019, Patterson was arrested for failing to pay over $100,000 in child support. In 2021, he was among 17 former players charged with defrauding the NBA healthcare system. Before that, in 2000, Patterson faced a serious charge of third-degree attempted rape involving his children's nanny. He entered an Alford plea, leading to a reduced sentence where he served only 15 days of a 365-day sentence, with the rest suspended. He also underwent 2 years of probation and counseling, and had to register as a sex offender in Washington. Compared to Patterson, the next star spent far more time in jail for doing crimes as horrific as Patterson. Number 7. Jack Molinas. Jack Molinas was a basketball player with tremendous potential, which was evident when the Fort Wayne Pistons picked him 3rd overall in the 1953 NBA draft. However, Molinas' promising career was cut short after just 32 games when he was caught betting on NBA games. This led to a lifetime ban from the league. Molinas was not just a casual gambler, he was earning up to $50,000 per week from gambling activities. Now, compare that to the fact that the average annual salary of NBA players at the time was just $4,000 to $5,000. His gambling extended beyond the NBA, as he was also linked to the notorious 1961 NCAA men's basketball point shaving scandal. For his involvement in the NCAA scandal, Molinas was sentenced to 10 to 15 years in jail, although he ended up serving only 5 years. Then, in 1973, he was arrested and charged with the interstate shipment of pornography, for which he was released on a $10,000 bond. Molinas' life came to a tragic end when he was murdered in 1975 at his girlfriend's house in Los Angeles. It was a sad end for a player who had so much potential, but lost it to addiction and crime. Number 6. Mookie Blaylock. Duron Mookie Blaylock is a former NBA player who faced severe legal consequences after a tragic car accident on May 31, 2013, in Clayton County, Georgia. Blaylock's car veered across the center line and collided with an oncoming van. It resulted in the death of Monica Murphy and injuries to her husband. Before the accident, Blaylock had been dealing with seizures and was under strict medical advice not to drive. Despite this, he drove his car that day. Other than that, Blaylock had also struggled with alcohol issues and had multiple DUIs in his past, though he was not under the influence at the time of the crash. After the incident, Blaylock was charged with second-degree vehicular homicide. He entered a plea deal which led to a 7-year prison sentence, reduced to 3 years with conditions. These included completing 1,500 hours of community service, undergoing treatment for alcoholism, attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings twice a week, and not driving for 15 years. Blaylock served 3 years in prison and is currently on probation. Since his release, he has not been involved in any further DUIs or accidents. Number 5. Tom Paine. Tom Paine broke barriers as the first African-American basketball player at Kentucky. Despite this pioneering role, Paine is lesser known because his professional basketball career was brief. He played just 29 games for the Atlanta Hawks in the 1971-72 season. Aside from a short career as a professional boxer, Paine's life took a dark turn. His basketball career ended abruptly in 1972 when he was convicted of rape and sentenced to 5 years in a Georgia prison. After completing his sentence, Paine faced more legal troubles. He received a 6-year sentence in Kentucky for another rape charge. He was released on parole in 1983. Then again in 1986, he was convicted of rape, this time in California, leading to a lengthy imprisonment until he was paroled in 2000. However, his freedom was short-lived. He soon violated his parole and was incarcerated until his release in 2019. Since then, Paine has stayed out of jail, but his past has made everyone forget his early achievements in basketball. Number 4. Jason Williams. Jason Williams made it from a challenging upbringing to the NBA, but his personal struggles followed him. Early in his NBA career, Williams was involved in a bar incident where he defended teammate Charles Barkley against an assailant with a knife. He used a mug as a weapon, This encounter resulted in charges of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, which were later dropped. However, the most severe legal issue for Williams occurred in 2002, when he accidentally shot and killed his limousine driver, Kostas Gus Christofi. According to him, he was just showing off his gun collection at his home after a dinner following a Harlem Globetrotters game. In a panic, Williams attempted to cover up the incident by placing the weapon in Christofi's hands to stage it as a suicide. This action led to his arrest, and a blood test revealed his intoxication. In 2010, he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, resulting in a 5-year prison sentence, of which he served 27 months, before being released in April 2012. During that time, he faced multiple arrests, including a DUI in 2004 in Raleigh, North Carolina, while awaiting trial. In 2009, he was involved in another bar altercation and was tased by police after a distress call about his suicidal behavior. In 2010, he crashed his car into a tree while intoxicated, leading to a 1-year jail sentence and significant fines. The last recorded incident was in 2016, when Williams was again arrested for drunk driving in New Jersey. Despite these repeated legal issues, Williams has managed to stay out of trouble since then. We hope it stays that way. Number 3. Javaris Crittenton. We all remember Javaris Crittenton due to that one infamous incident. It was Gilbert Arenas who brought guns to an NBA locker room and dared Crittenton to shoot him. After that, Crittenton stayed in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. In 2014, he was among 14 people arrested by the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration. Crittenton was implicated in distributing large amounts of cocaine and marijuana. He faced 2 conspiracy charges under the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. What intensifies the severity of this case is that during the arrest, Crittenton was already out on bond for murder charges. Back in August 2011, he was involved in a violent altercation where he reportedly attempted to shoot a rival gang member who had previously robbed him. Tragically, he missed his intended target, and a stray bullet fatally struck Julian Jones, a 22-year-old mother of 4. After the tragic shooting incident, Javaris Crittenton fled to Atlanta. The FBI later caught and arrested him. In April 2015, Crittenton faced the consequences of his actions. He pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter with a weapon and aggravated assault with a firearm. For these crimes, he received a sentence of 23 years in prison. This led to the death of his career and fame. Number 2. Keith Appling. Keith Appling is a former basketball player from Michigan State University. In May 2021, he was arrested for the fatal shooting of 66-year-old Clyde Edmonds in Detroit. He was charged with first-degree murder, illegal firearm possession, and carrying concealed weapons. This was not Appling's first encounter with the law. Back in 2016, he faced charges of carrying a concealed weapon and possessing marijuana. The following year, Appling was sentenced to a year in jail for resisting police and carrying a concealed weapon during another incident. Then, in 2020, Appling was pulled over by police and subsequently arrested for driving without a license and the delivery or manufacture of less than 50 grams of a controlled substance. During this stop, police discovered a significant amount of heroin in his vehicle. These repeated legal challenges led to his fall from his days as a promising college basketball player. Now let's talk about an NBA star who's been arrested over 100 times. Number 1. Eddie Johnson Jr. Eddie Johnson Jr. was picked by the Atlanta Hawks in the 1997 NBA Draft. He played 10 solid years in the league, making it to 2 All-Star games and 2 All-Defensive teams. Despite his success in basketball, Eddie faced serious personal challenges. He struggled with mental health issues and began using drugs in college, which continued to affect him throughout his life. In 1987, his struggles led to a lifetime ban from the NBA because of his cocaine addiction. Eddie's life outside basketball was even more troubled. He was arrested over 100 times for various offenses, including burglary and assault. One of his most serious offenses involved an assault on a young child, which happened while he was already out on bail for a separate assault case. For this, he was sentenced to life in prison, and he stayed there until he passed away in 2020 due to illness. Eddie's story is a tough one. It shows us how deep personal problems can overshadow a successful sports career and lead to tragic outcomes. It's surprising to see how many famous NBA stars have ended up in jail. Over in the music world, the story's not much different. Many famous rappers have also found themselves on the wrong side of the law. Watch our next video to find out which famous rappers are currently rotting in jail. You're in for a surprise.